I'm here with a really good friend of mine, Bert from PropStream, and today we have something amazing to share with you on this video. I know you're watching this webinar right now, and I mean, this blows me away, like how fast we can get deals. And really, the secret to getting deals, secret sauce here, as you see in the back, the secret sauce to finding deal is really mostly one main component. It's a little small components, but it's one chunk of a component, and that's the data. And if it wasn't for us getting the right data, aka basically like a list, accurate information of homeowners, getting their phone numbers, and deep into that list, we're finding specific targets. And this is something we want to share with you tonight. And Burton and I, we're going to peel back the curtain of basically a software that provides you all the secret sauce to finding your deals, finding your cash buyers, and basically a snap of a finger, you can send out a marketing campaign because you have that right data where you can get these deals from motivated sellers and get to the closing table. So I want to introduce you to my friend Burton.
Hey everyone. Hey Antonio, thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
I like that shirt. My data is bigger than your data.
15 years of collecting data, man. We're happy to brag about that. So.
I love it, man. So let's talk about this, man. Let's talk about the software and the data. I mean, data is everything. I mean, people out there are still doing bandit signs. I mean, we took that off our marketing channel. All right. Yeah. Data. I mean, all our deals are coming from data. That's it. I mean, people can get a data and list from certain stuff, but I think accuracy is the most important.
Correct. And that's what a lot of people kind of fail to understand, that data is pretty much readily available anywhere nowadays, especially because of technology. Yeah. But it's not just buying the data and then, hey, let's go ahead and market to it. What we've done for the past 15 years is that we've shopped for data. No one list comes from one source. So for those that are experienced investors who have been in this industry for a long time, you know that there are multiple outlets in which you can get your data from. And this regards are in regards to like MLS, right? You get that information from a broker, pre-foreclosures and liens and bankruptcies from the county, deed information from the tax assessors, mortgage information from mortgage providers. So for the last 15 years, what we've done is that we've understand who the major providers are, and we've partnered up with the most credible and fastest and most accurate providers out there. So where most aggregators are just buying a list and then putting it in their system for you to then go through it, we do it a little bit different. We actually buy the list from multiple providers. We then send it over to our data director. His name's Tyler, who massages the data, right? He looks for any anomalies, anything that's off. If 3 providers are saying a property is not in pre-foreclosure and 1 provider is, we get to the bottom of it before it's actually sent out to our users. So we like to call it massaging the data. So again, 15 years of understanding the best providers. And what we do is just like you would when you go shopping, you don't buy all your clothes in one store, right? Some of us do, but what I do is I shop. I go look for the best prices. I look for the best brands, and I put my outfit collectively through different stores, right? So buying a shirt in one place, buying pants in another place, buying shoes in another location, and a coat in another location. And that's what we do here at PropStream. So it's not just one source. I know that you guys are familiar with like CoreLogic and all these. It's everybody. We're buying data from everybody, then massage it, and then provide it to you. So I do want to shed some light on that, because a lot of people are just like, oh, you're just buying data. I can go easily get that. And now I'm in the same position as PropStream. That is not the case, guys. And for those of you that are either using PropStream or have seen it, it's tying all that information together effectively so that you, the user, aren't going to 7 different websites to get one piece of information on a property owner. PropStream puts it all on one page for you to, as Antonio said, analyze the property, know who the owner is, run comps on the property using local level results or MLS listings, and even skip trace for contact information and market. So thanks for letting me shed light on that, Antonio.
Secret to finding deals, baby. The secret. So you want to peel back the curtain, man? Let's see, give them this secret sauce of. I know people's mouths are like watering, like what is this?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me give you guys a quick overview. There's a lot to cover, but I'm going to kind of give you guys just a quick rundown on how our system pretty much works in a nutshell. So if you're looking at my screen right now, this is PropStream when you first log in. But again, this is nationwide data. So as you saw, I'm in Southern California, which it zoomed in on that market. But you can search practically any place in the United States. So you can search, let's say Miami, Florida, and we're going to zoom in on that market and show you the records that you have access to. So there's over 400,000 records that you can go through. Now, these records are categorized based on the category that they're in. So if you want to look for just MLS listings, click on the MLS box and those results are isolated on the right-hand side. Same with pre-foreclosures, same with foreclosures, cash buyers, liens, and vacant. And so that's what we do amazingly is we collect the records so that you don't have to go driving for them. We put them in our system, and then the key component is now when you click on any of these records, you're able to see all the details that we've collected for you. So, for example, this property here was in the MLS section. I click on it. I have MLS photos. I could to see the rehab done on the property to get an idea if this is a full ARV property, if I'm trying to run comps. I get to see the cash sale tab. Lets me know that at one point in 2017, this property was bought by a company in cash. So for those of you that are looking for a buyer, here's theoretically one for you. And you can tell they're flipping it because after buying it in cash, they're now listing it as a rental property. So there's a lot of, without even calling the investor, without even calling the homeowner of this property, we were able to identify the strategy that this person owning the property, this company, is utilizing the property for, right? Now, let's say this was a property in pre-foreclosure. Again, when you click on a pre-foreclosure property, the details are different. So now I have the pre-foreclosure details, lets me know the recording date, who the lender was. And then the most important part about our system is that not only are we giving you the owner's name and the pre-foreclosure, the lien details or the cash sale details, but running comps, guys. So without having to bug your agent anymore, you have the ability to run comps in PropStream. And you have two avenues. You can use public records, which is my favorite because these are both MLS listed properties that sold as well as private sold properties. So most of us use public records to see properties that sold at full price. Guess what? You can use public records to see what cash buyers bought properties in the neighborhood for. So not only are you using public records to get an ARV on properties that sold at full price, but you can control the sell situation and say, hey, you know what? I'm interested in all the cash buyers that bought a 2-bedroom property and a 1-bedroom property, just like the subject property that I have here. And here are my cash buyer results. So again, I went into the comp section to run comps, but I'm now finding buyers I can provide this property to once it's on contract. And so running comps is really, really easy. Again, it's apples to apples. This, again, was an example of showing you buyers. But if I didn't want to see buyers, I can deselect that and it shows me all the sale transactions that the county have pushed out. Again, this includes off-market sales as well. Now, for the MLS comps, this is strictly properties that sold through an agent only. Now, what's the importance here? These are all marketable condition properties. And if I organize the sell date, you'll see that properties have been recorded in the MLS box that have not yet been recorded in the county section. So, perfect example, this county is about 3 months behind. Their most recent record shown as a sale is on November 26th. So when I jump over to the MLS database, again, MLS and county records are different. The MLS is showing me properties that have sold after November that I can use now as a much more accurate market analysis, right? So my question to you guys is, do you want to provide your buyers comps from November, or would you like to provide your buyers comps from the last 2 or 3 months? And so that's the luxury of having both, is that these are all marketable properties. MLS comps are strictly properties that sold through an agent. Public record comps are officially sold records from the county that include MLS properties and private sales. But the challenge is that sometimes the public records can be several months behind. So having access to MLS lets you see things much more recently, and not just sold. You could even see things that are currently pending right now, people that have already put a bid on a property, or even properties that are currently active. So you can get an idea of where the market is at today. So comps, really easy to use. Choose the public records or MLS comps. Now, if you're watching this and you're in a non-disclosure state like Texas, make sure you're just using MLS comps, right? And you should be fully aware of why I'm saying that. But for those of you that aren't, make sure you Google non-disclosure state. And if your state is in a non-disclosure state, when running comps, only use MLS. We give you tax information, mortgage information, which shows all of the mortgage history. So if they refinance the property, if they defaulted on the property, like you see here, the previous owner defaulted on the property, and this is probably why it's in pre-foreclosure today. And then you have the documents and reports. So guys, this is what a single property detail page looks like when you click on it. And every single property, over 200 million records that we have, when you click on it, a different story unfolds. Now, that's the first avenue, is to be able to click on a property and analyze it. The second avenue of our system is to be able to search a market, let's say Dallas, Texas. And once you get your results, you can create your own lists. So if you're looking for a motivated sellers list, you can go into Dallas, go into our filter, and start custom creating your own distress motivated sellers list or distress list. So you can look for maybe a property that's facing a bankruptcy and it's owner occupied. You can play with property characteristics. Maybe you're looking for a single family property in bankruptcy. You have MLS stats. This allows you to look for something that's currently on market or off market. Maybe off market because it recently failed. So what you guys are seeing me do is adding extra layers. So I'm not just looking for any bankruptcy, but the people that filed a bankruptcy that tried to list it with an agent, but it failed, right? This is an extra level of motivation that I'm looking for. So what I'm showing you guys is go ahead, Antonio.
I'm just saying that's just awesome.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I like to explain to people is that with PropStream, I know that we're used to building a list, but with PropStream, it's no longer a lead as a list. A lead is a problem. And so when you're in the filter, you can come up with all sorts of problems. And some problems are more obvious than others, like a bankruptcy. That's very obvious, right? And so as we choose bankruptcies, we can, again, start adding to it. Is it on or off market? Is the bankruptcy also going through a pre-foreclosure or an auction? Maybe you're trying to stay away from pre-foreclosures because it's competitive. So in PropStream, you can suppress records. I want a bankruptcy, but exclude the foreclosures. I want to try to get to these homeowners before they go into pre-foreclosure is the idea here. So to be able to add multiple pain points or suppress certain pain points is very pinnacle, especially when you're in a very saturated market. You also have ownership info you can play with, separate how many years they've lived in there, or separate individual versus corporate owned. You have lien, bankruptcy, and divorce status you can apply or refine. So not only am I looking for a bankruptcy, but perhaps a bankruptcy that's also facing a divorce, or a bankruptcy that also has a lien on top of it, right? So not only are you in pre-foreclosure or you're not in pre-foreclosure, but you have a bankruptcy and now you got all these lien holders wanting their money, right? Talk about extra level of stress, motivation. So this section allows you to add a lien, a bankruptcy, a divorce to your existing search, or even suppress. So maybe you don't want any properties with liens because you just want to pay for the mortgage and that's it. Or maybe you don't want any properties that have a divorce because you don't want to chase two signatures, right? So the ability, again, to layer or suppress is revolutionary. And then the last two categories are the value and equity information. So you can put estimated value on the property. Maybe you're looking for properties under $250,000. Estimated equity, maybe properties that have 30% or more that are, in bankruptcy. And then last but not least, mortgage information. So you can apply, maybe look for someone that has two mortgages, or someone that has a certain opening mortgage balance, or the loan to value ratio in the first mortgage is pretty high. So there's a lot of ways that you can custom create. And ultimately, after you apply your layers, you're going to go down to the right-hand side, and these are your unique properties. So after I searched Dallas, applied my filter, here are my results. And now I can save those results to a marketing list. So my Dallas bankruptcies. And then once I save that, we're done. I just built a list of distressed buyers, but it doesn't end there, because not only do we have distressed buyers, but we also are distressed homeowners. We also have cash buyers. We have flippers. So now that I'm done building a distress list, I can search the same market and now identify cash buyers that would be interested in buying those distressed properties that I just got on contract. Now, we have two ways of building buyers. You can use the cash buyer record, which is my favorite, or the new category, which is flippers. So flippers are properties that have been owned for less than 2 years that are now back on the market. So here's a perfect example here, right? This property has
Oh,
been.
that's a cool feature. I never used that feature on that one,
Oh,
Burton.
this is very new. It just came out about maybe a month and a half ago, and it's just like the hot new feature now. Because let me explain the difference between the two. Okay,
Yep.
now we're all used to finding buyers, cash buyers, which is what this list was originally for. But here's the reality: when someone buys a property, we don't know why they bought a property. It could be non-owner occupied, and the assumption is this out-of-state buyer bought this property in cash to invest in it, right? To flip,
Sure.
fix, and flip it, right? But that's the thing, we don't know. All we know right now is that 43,000 properties were bought in cash. That's it. Now, since we have the MLS, what we've done is we've used those two categories together. So here's the flippers logic. It's not just someone who bought it in cash. Flippers are people that have owned a property for less than 24 months and
Mm-hmm.
they're now put back on the market. So who would do that? Who would buy a property and live in it for less than 2 years and then tell an agent to go sell it? A flipper does that.
I
And
flipped.
so this is using county records and MLS records together. And all you have to do is just choose flippers, and every one of these lists are flippers. So here's a person that bought it a month ago. They paid it in cash. And then now you can see that they're listing it for 95,000. And now this list can be used anywhere. If we go back to Miami, it shows me the 1100 that did that. So when I click on that property, they bought it in cash for 268 and they're now listing it for $300,000. Is that not a flipper? And
Yeah.
look, this property was in pre-foreclosure in November. So guess what? This buyer, they found a property in pre-foreclosure. They paid cash for it, and now they're listing it for a much higher price. So again, I like this list a lot better than the cash buyers. Both of them are really, really well, but this lets me know, hey, these guys are done with this project. Let me go ahead and call them because they might need another project now, right? So that's the difference. Cash buyers, we just know they bought it in cash. Flippers, they bought something and now it's back on market, and you can see that it's pending or active and so forth.
So basically, it that flippers filters the cash buyers section in some sort, because cash buyers can be someone who had, like, just bought a property cash to live in as an owner occupied.
Exactly. And that's the thing. We have to do more research. We have to now build that cash buyers list and skip trace and call them and say, hey, I have a contract. Would you be interested in it? But at the whole time, we don't know why they bought that property in cash. Like you said, Antonio, they could have bought it for a grandson. They could have bought it for a daughter, and they just had the money to buy it in cash, right?
Yeah.
So what this flippers list does is it takes advantage of the MLS that we have. It says, okay, we need to find a property that's been owned for less than 2 years that's now back on market. So, Antonio, if you bought a house today in March and then you and your team rehabbed it, and then in June of this year, you guys called an agent and listed it on market, you'd be on this list. Why? Because you bought a property in March and you've owned it for less than 2 years and it's back on market. Those are the three logic systems, is that you bought it, you've owned it for less than 24 months, and then you called an agent to put it back on market. And every one of these properties is just that. So you should see that they bought it in cash and then they're listing it usually for a much higher amount. And what's important about this list, you
Mhm.
get to see two things: the buyer and the agent that's representing the buyer. So if you're having a hard time getting a hold of the buyer, get a hold of the agent.
And let me add on to this, guys who are watching this video right now. So we will use what we're using, like the cash buyers list, and now we'll use this flipper list. When we have a deal and a contract to sell, just say I'm in Orlando, Florida right this second, and I had a property in Tampa, Florida, and I didn't have any buyers there. Just for an example here, I will come right into the system and go into the flippers area in Tampa and see who's buying in that area and pull this data or pull this list and send them my deal that I have in the contract in Tampa, and boom, I will sell that property because I have the right data, the correct data, and I know they are the investor, they're flippers in that area that are flipping houses. So this is a good way to wholesale your deals if you're looking to flip properties and get that checks.
Yes, absolutely. And to add to it, you can also filter the flippers list. So like right now in Tampa, Florida, like you mentioned, if I just click the flippers, there's 699 properties that have been
Mhm.
that are on market right now that have been owned for less than 24 months. Now, let's say the contract we have in Tampa is a condominium. So after I choose flippers, I can go to property characteristics and say, okay, well, I want the flippers that are flipping condominiums. And so here they are, 46 of them that are doing that. And again, I click on it, I get to see what they bought it for, and I get to see what they're currently listing it for now. So these are this is the behavior of an investor. And this is again what we do differently that others don't is we understand the industry and we've been part of it for a good 15 years now and we know what you guys are looking for, right? Again, everybody has a cash buyers list, but what nobody's doing is understanding what you investors are having to go through, which is, hey, I'm going to get a cash buyers list and then I have to skip trace it. And I'm going to cross my fingers that these guys either want my contract and not only want my contract, but they have the availability to work on a new project, right? Now, with these guys, I know they have availability to work on a project because the project they were working on is now being listed, which means all the rehab is already done. And we can see the photos all the rehab has already been done. So once this investor sells their property, which is on market right now, what do you think they're going to need next? Another project. And that's why I like the flippers list, is because it already does the job for me. It lets me know that they've already purchased it, they've already rehabbed it, it's now back on market. Once it sells, they need another project, and that's when I come in.
Guys, your cash buyer problem is now solved. I mean, how many questions I get, Burton, like, hey, Antonio, how can I find cash buyers? Or I can't find cash buyers. Not just questions, it's just like people just just providing their issue or their problem within their business, man. And most of the time, it's really cash buyers. They can have a deal in the contract, but they can't sell it. And the reason most of the time is because they don't have enough cash buyers in their arsenal to sell this deal too. You may have 2 or 3 buyers, but the more cash buyers and the more flippers and investors you have in your Rolodex, the easier to sell a property. Because right now, this market we're in, Burton, investors are buying properties like well over asking price. And so,
oh, absolutely. And the other thing I like about this list is if again, I'm very analytical and I always like to think of things differently than the rest. So if I'm ever in a market I've never been to, let's say Chicago, right? Let's go to Chicago, Illinois really quick. And let's look at the flippers list in Chicago. So not only am I able to build a flippers list in Chicago, but the thing I like about this list is that let's say I'm interested in this property that was bought by an investor. I get to see the property that the investor is interested in. So if this is an investor I want to put on my buyers list, well, guess what? I know exactly what criteria that investor is looking for. And all I need to now do is look for a distressed property that meets these exact criteria, right? So again, if we go back to Miami, Florida, and we're looking at flippers and we see one that's buying a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, two things. I know the criteria that they want. I know the area that they're in. I know how much buying power they have, and I know the agent that's using them or that's representing that buyer. So, data is very powerful if you know what you're looking for. And right now, that's 4 different websites I would have had gone through, right? How much buying power does the buyer have? Well, it's here, public records. Who's the buyer? Well, here it is. Where's their address? There it is. Who's the agent representing that buyer? There it is. And why did the buyer buy this property at such a discounted price? Because it was in pre-foreclosure, right?
And that's one of the most powerful advantages using this software, guys, is that everything is all under one house. And it's very easy to navigate. I'm not, believe it or not, I'm not a techie person. I'm very practical, very, very simple. And this is one of the simple platforms you can go in and, okay, I want to pull some vacant properties. Start off with, I want to pull a vacant property list and just say your market is Birmingham, Alabama. I want to go to my Birmingham, Alabama market, pull a vacant property list, which you can show them as I'm talking real quick, because that's how simple it is. Type in Birmingham, Alabama. You can look at how many vacants. Boom. It's at 13,788 vacant properties as of date that you can pull. And then you can filter within that vacant property list. You can say, what's some type of filters we can do?
Oh, again, and that's okay. So to your point there, I try to educate people that a lead is not a list, right? So when you're looking for vacant, there's multiple things that we can do, but what you want to do is put yourself in the shoes of the homeowner. If you owned a property that's vacant, what would cause you to want to sell it? And then once you think that way, man, sky's the limit. Here's a great reason of why I would sell it. Maybe because I tried to list it and it failed on market. So vacant properties that failed on market. That's one way of looking for a distressed owner, or a vacant property that is owned by an out-of-state owner. And the property is maybe really old. So it's built in 1970, or later. So, I mean, a 50-year-old property, you don't even live in the same state. What does that mean? You got to get contractors to update your roof. You got to get an agent to list your property. If it's vacant, it means it's not cash flowing. So no one's there right now paying your mortgage or your taxes. So you just got to think of putting yourself in the homeowner's shoes and what are the leverages that you can use. And to my point, a lead is not a list. Guys, let me show you how and why I keep saying that. I'm going to be able to go to Birmingham, Alabama. And while a lot of you guys are looking for a list, I can look for a lead without looking at a list. For example, I'm going to suppress all the categories. I'm going to suppress on market. So no MLS, no pre-foreclosures, no liens, bankruptcies, or any of that other stuff. Right. So while you guys are pulling records, because you guys are used to pulling a list, which a lot of people are, so don't be discouraged. I'm just showing you another way to like evolve the lead building. Right. So with PropStream, a lead is not a list. A lead is a problem. So just to show you an example, I've suppressed every public record you can think of. No MLS, no pre-foreclosures, no lien, bankruptcy. So the records that you guys are normally looking for as a lead, right? So while I've suppressed that, here's how I would find my leads. Thinking of a pain point. You know, a situation that someone would get upset in, maybe having 2 mortgages. That's a problem, right? Yep. So 2 mortgages, you're not in any public records, yet you still have 70% in equity or more, and you're an individual. So guys, think about that. While you guys are pulling pre-foreclosures and tax liens and bankruptcies and sending postcards to them, I'm looking for people that aren't on those records, but they have 2 mortgages. Because 2 mortgages is an issue, especially if they're both adjustable rates. You may be paying $1,500 right now on both of them, but once those rates go up 1%, your $1,500 a month is now $1,900 a month, and I'm sure you're going to want to get out of that situation, right? So a lead is not a list. A lead is a problem, and once you understand that, sky's the limit. You can go into Miami. Heck, you can look for a non-owner occupied property that's currently not cash flowing. Again, it's 50 years old. It's not on market. It's not in pre-foreclosure. It's been owned by someone for 15 years, an individual. Heck, that person lives in a different state. And there are no liens, bankruptcies, or any public records that would indicate they're in distress. And last but not least, they have 70% in equity or not. So guys, here are 59 tired landlords that are not on public records. And that's what I wanted to show you guys, that in our system, because we've done this for a long time, where most aggregators are buying a pre-foreclosure list and then say, hey, here's our pre-foreclosure list. Go ahead and look through it. Here's some basic filters. That wasn't our design. I mean, you can do that if you want. You can just look at a pre-foreclosure list and just use basic filters. Or you can just go into our filter and build a problem. And in this case, these are properties that are not in any distressed public records. But the problem is that you've lived in it or you've owned it for 15 years. You're in a whole different state, and it's currently not cash flowing right now because it's vacant. All right. Talk about tired landlords. I would give them a call and say, hey, you know what? This property's been sitting around for a while and I see no one's parked in the driveway. You know, would you consider an offer on it? And then we would go from there.
And I like the way you use that filters analogy, is like you build a problem. So that filter section, you know, when you kind of like filtering out your list there, it's like you kind of like building this problem. You're creating a profile of a problem of what that lead or that list.
Love that you said that, because I know we toss the word real estate investor around quite a bit, and you guys are, we all are, right? But at the end of the day, what are we? We're real estate solution providers. So in order for you even to be in this industry, you got to go find a problem. And then that's what you're supposed to do. You go in our system and you're reverse engineering it. You're going into our filter to build a problem that you can solve, right? And that problem could be a problem. Let's say you do wholesaling. Well, the problem needs to have equity, right? So whatever the problem is, it needs to have equity. It needs to be off market in order for you to wholesale it. So as long as it's high equity, off market, that problem could be the year that the property was built, that it's in pre-foreclosure, that's in auction. But that's the whole design of our system, is that there are thousands of leads out there that you guys can find that's not a list. It's just a matter of sitting there and saying, hey, you know what, this is a problem. A 50-year-old building is a problem. You know, a 50-year-old building that's owned by someone in a whole different county is a problem. Or someone with 3 mortgages, that's a problem. And so when you start thinking at that level, then you realize, now I know what Burton was talking about, that a lead is not a list. I shouldn't be looking for pre-foreclosures all the time. I should be looking for pre-foreclosures and people with 3 mortgages on the same on a separate list. And those are the problems, right? Again, the element of what you know will grow based on the knowledge you know. So if you know creative seller financing, subject twos, and wholesaling, then sky's the limit when it comes to filtering. But if you only know a certain niche, like right now, if you're just starting in wholesaling, then you're very limited on what you can do, because at the end of the day, you need to have equity in order to wholesale it. If you don't have equity, then that lead is no longer an opportunity for you. But if you educate yourself, obviously, follow Antonio. He teaches all these amazing strategies. But the more you educate yourself, then high equity, low equity, I mean, it's a lead for you. And now all you have to do is just add some leverage. And that leverage could be, again, a pre-foreclosure, an auction, a bankruptcy, or some other leverage like I did here, owning a property for almost a decade and it's not cash flowing right now.
Absolutely. I love it, man. And this is like, guys, this is just a piece of what this software offers. I mean, you want to talk to them about like the list stack side of it, man?
Yeah, man. So on top of analyzing and being able to build the buyers and a flippers list, we have skip tracing for you guys, so you can get phone numbers, emails, and literally in like 15 minutes. And just so you guys can see what they look like, here's a list that I did recently.
For those of you who don't know what skip tracing is, it's basically, how earlier we're talking about, you're building your list, filtering, getting vacant properties that are absentee owners, whatnot. You get that list, you save it, and then you go into the skip trace section of the same exact software on the one house, and you're getting the phone numbers and emails to that list. All right. So you can then send out your text campaign.
Absolutely. And that's what, I mean, this is what PropStream was designed to do. We've thought, how do we save you guys time and money? How do we put all these different outlets that you guys were going to 5-6 years ago, and how do we consolidate it onto one platform? So not only do you have the ability to search and analyze a property and build your list, but you can save it and export it. You can skip trace it, get their contact information. Heck, we even have the campaign section, which you can send postcards, ring list voicemails, and emails. So all of that's included. But what Antonio was referring to is a new update that we just launched. If you go to the settings and you click on add-on services, or if you log in for the first time, you'll see a pop-up. But the new add-on is called List Automator. So this one I have to kind of explain a little bit thoroughly, but let me kind of break it down on why we created List Automator. The sole purpose of List Automator was to save you, the investor, money. So let me break down the 3 updates on the List Automator. The first update was to be able to create a list within a list. So in the My Properties page, after you build a list and you save it, like the Dallas bankruptcies that I did just a few moments earlier, what we're going to do is, after you build a list, and let me refresh this really quick just so it gets everything. But after you build a list, we're going to take your list and we're going to categorize it in through several different categories. So when I see my Dallas bankruptcy, it tells me how many are on that list, how many of those bankruptcies are on market with an agent, how many have just sold, how many are not answering their mail, how many have high equity, how many have low equity, negative equity. So we're categorizing your lists for you. We're letting you know the opportunities within the 700 that you just saved. Now, for example, low equity, right? That would be something that you would need to do creative seller financing on. So if I was interested in 79, I don't have to search all over again. I just click on my lists, click on the 79, and now I can highlight them and export them or move them into a separate marketing list. Or if you guys are catching on to this little icon here, you can edit. So you can create a list within a list. Isn't that amazing? Like you created a bankruptcy list, you went to it and you're like, oh, wait, 79 of them have low equity. Let me isolate those 79 and let me actually filter those 79. Of those 79, I want the individually owned properties for 7 years or more. And so when I hit apply, it's going to say, well, in that case, there's 53 of them, right? And that list, the original, never changed. Nothing was deleted. It still stays the same amount. So without having to go back to the search page and redo that search, I isolated 53 opportunities within a larger list. And now that I've isolated those 53 opportunities, I can now hit export, or I can skip trace them, send postcards, or even move them into a different list. So for example, 53 low equity lists. And so again, the original list stays the same. Nothing was deleted. Nothing was adjusted. We're back to 707, but those 53 are now isolated into a whole new list. So I didn't have to go run and do a search again. The filters show exactly what I want. So stacking a list within a list, first list automator update. Second update, but by far one of the most important one. So I got to kind of explain why we did this second update. When an investor buys a list, and this was including us in the past, when you bought a list from us or a different aggregator, the problem is the moment that you bought the list, it's what we call static. That means that you don't know if anything changes or not. The moment you bought the list, it's static. Something could happen in the next few hours and you wouldn't know because your Excel sheet doesn't update on its own, right? So the behavior of an investor is that they would buy a list, let's say 1,000 addresses, and you would send 1,000 postcards and 1,000 text messages and 1,000 voicemails. And then you would wait and leads would come in and leads would, come in and contact you. But you would wait about a month or so, and then you would send another wave of marketing, right? So the next month, you're sending another 1,000 postcards and another 1,000 voicemails and another 1,000 text messages. You wait for your leads to come in. The third month, you do it again, another 1,000 postcards, another 1,000 voicemails, and so. And you repeat that process until maybe the fifth or sixth time you market to it. Then you say, you know what? It's been 6 months since I marketed to this, or since I bought this list. It's no longer cost effective to send 1,000 postcards 6 months later to a list of pre-foreclosures, right? Because some of them, again, could have been foreclosed on. List Automator gets rid of that. What List Automator allows you to do is finally create a list and automate it, meaning PropStream will monitor it on a daily basis. So we can automatically add properties to your list that meet your criteria when we update, or add it to another list automatically, or we can notify you and then you move it in your list by yourself or move it to another list by yourself. But this also goes for properties that are in your list already that don't meet your criteria. So what if I have a list of 1,000 addresses and something in my list doesn't meet my criteria anymore? What can PropStream do with it? Well, we can remove it from the list automatically. We can move it into another list automatically for you, or we can notify you and then you can delete it or move it into another list as you see fit. So once you decide the rules, what you're going to have PropStream do when properties are updated that meet your criteria, and what you're going to have PropStream do when properties in your list no longer meet your criteria, you're going to hit save, and your list will now be pushed into our new section called the automated list area. And what the automated list area will do, as I mentioned, is it's going to take your filter, and every single day, we're going to make sure that every single property in your list is essentially matching up that filter. If it doesn't, depending on the rules that you applied, it's either going to get removed automatically, move into a different list automatically, or you're going to be essentially highlighted at the very top. It's going to tell you, hey, you got to remove these properties and you got to add these properties. So once this kicks through.
And I like that feature too. It's such a powerful feature because, like, first of all, it's bringing more accuracy into the situation. And on top of that, it's bringing speed of implementation. So if you get a new lead that comes into the system today, you're not finding out next week that you get notified today that, hey, 123 Main Street's a new vacant property lead or a new cash buyer lead just came into the system. You can hop right onto it and jump right onto it before, somebody, next week is too late, because right now, there's so many investors coming to the game. Whoever acts, the quickest wins. It's all about speed of implementation and having systems in place like this.
Exactly. And you're not having to save or run that search over and over again. So every time you log in, you don't have to run that market search and add those filters again. And here's an example of what happens when you automate a list. So here's a list of tired landlords in Chicago I built. Now, this list was pushed in here at 991 records. Mm-hmm. Over the next few days, it's telling me that 117 properties do not meet this criteria anymore. So some of them could have hit the market. And so if I click on that, it tells me, yeah, some of them have hit the market. So what do you do, guys? Do you still send 991 postcards, or do you remove the 117 that don't meet your criteria? Because those are a waste of marketing material, right? So that's what I'm going to do. Of the 991, before I send postcards today, I'm going to delete the 117 that don't meet my criteria. So in theory, instead of sending 991 postcards, the second marketing wave, I'm actually sending 874 postcards and voicemails and emails. So think of the money saved there, guys. Remember, you didn't know prior to this update what was happening the next time you do your marketing. For all you know, you think all 1,000 addresses that you bought are still good. So the next time you market a month later, you send 1,000 postcards. When in reality, maybe 150 of them are no longer meeting your criteria. So why should you have sent 1,000? You should have sent 850 postcard, and think of the money saved there. That money saved could have been used for other forms of marketing. So perfect example here. After we removed the properties that didn't meet my criteria, PropStream's telling me, hey, these 874 as of this morning meet this exact criteria. So these are the ones that you should be sending the postcards to, not all 991. And on the opposite, this morning, 262 properties meet that criteria. So what do you want to do? Well, let's add it to that list. So now we can add it to the list. And now instead of sending 874, we're sending 1,000 postcards because now we have new records that need to be marketed to. So that was the second major update with the list automator, was to be able to automate a list so that every single day we're constantly adding and remove properties that either meet or no longer meet your criteria.
That's
and
awesome.
The third and major update, this one is revolutionary to our industry, is to finally be able to import any provider's list, or any list for that matter. It could be a provider's list from 5 years ago. It could be a list from 10 years ago that you have, but you can finally import a list into PropStream, and we're going to give you our data. And you guys are in luck. I'm actually going to show you how that's done. So let me show you a list that I mocked up here. So here's my list. So here are just addresses, cities, states, and zip codes. So as you can see, no owner names or anything. And as a matter of fact, just to show you, I'm going to copy the first address. I'm going to go into PropStream. I'm going to click on all my saved properties, and I'm going to try to look for that first address. Okay, 181 Costa, and it's not in here. All right, so let me just, you guys are a little bit more confident in this. Let me pull up something like down the middle. All right, let's look for this Fern one. So let me copy that, and let me search it here. And PropStream is going to say, okay, you have 24,000 records. Nothing matches that address. Okay, so now that you guys know these are not entered here preemptively, I'm now going to show you how I can take this outside list, dump it into PropStream, and give you our details. So I'm going to hit the import list, follow steps 1, 2, and 3, which I've already done for you. I'm going to now upload that list. I'm going to hit open, and then PropStream will say, okay, we need to name this list. So for example, it's my driving for dollars list, right? And then I'm going to hit save. And now PropStream is going to do its thing. It's going to take your Excel sheet with all these addresses. Again, these are addresses that are from a list 5 years ago. Maybe these are addresses you went driving for dollars for. So wherever you got this list from, once you import it into our system, PropStream will say, hey, we saw 260 loaded. All 260 were processed. 257 were successfully matched. 3 of them failed. And you can hit the report to see what failed. And I would really recommend that you hit the report. For those that failed, you'll notice that sometimes they have multiple property matches. So maybe it needed like a unit number or an apartment number. So have your team isolate the failed ones, and then do a little bit more research, and then re-upload them again. But as you can see, 257 properties were successfully matched out of the 260. And now when I go back to my properties page, I got to look for my driving for dollars list. And there they are. 257 properties, all with PropStream's data now. And let's go back and search these addresses. So let's search that first one. Remember, it didn't show up when I went into all saved properties. So I'm going to go to all saved properties. I'm going to search for that address. And oh, no, I'm sorry, driving for dollars. And I'm going to search for that address. And oh, you know what? Costa Mesa. There it is. So Costa Mesa, there it is, guys. And so now when I click on that street, there is all the details that PropStream uploads. So we went from this list, remember, no details, just the address, city, state, zip code, to now I know the owner's name. I can run comps on it. I know their tax information. I know their history on mortgage. So outside list, now PropStream has it. Now let's go check out that other one I showed you, that 21 Fern one, 214 Fern.
This is like like a real estate investing or wholesaling business in a box.
There you go.
I mean, this
Here's
is
that second one right there, the Fern address. And hey, look, that one I uploaded. Not only did it give me the details, but it also lets me know that it was bought in cash in 1997. Think about that. This list came out. This list wasn't even in PropStream, but we've collected data for 15 years. So all these properties are in our system every day being updated. And so we went from, hey, we went driving for dollars, or this is a list that I've had for 5 years in my desktop. It's just been sitting there. So I've imported it, and now all of that information is updated. So all 257 properties now have all of PropStream's details on it. And it doesn't even end there, because not only does it give PropStream, not only does PropStream give you all the details, but we'll categorize them for you. And again, you can create a list within a list, or you can automate the entire list. And when you automate an imported list, you can apply a blanketed filter. So now that I've uploaded my driving for dollars list and I've automated it, all 257 properties are here. I can now go to actions and say, okay, PropStream, now that I've uploaded it and you gave me all your updates, all the details today, here's what I want from this list. I want non-owner occupied, off-market properties that are owned by an individual that have 70% in equity. And then PropStream is going to do its thing, and it's going to say, okay, well, you just imported the list. We gave you all our details, and now you want us to separate these. Okay, there they go. Those 189 got to go. And so when I delete those 189, it tells me what's left over, and those are the properties I need to skip trace. Those are the properties I need to market to. Those are the properties that need to get a postcard. So this is our third major update, to be able to import any other lists into our system, get all of our details, and then tell PropStream, okay, now that I got your details, here's what I don't want from that list. And when you do that, it's now going to take them away. And these 68 properties from my driving for dollars list are the hot ones. These are the ones I need to market to.
You know, when I came into the game, Bergen, in 2009, it's been 11 years. I mean, this was back when bandit signs were like still the top tier marketing channel to get leads and do deals. I mean, now that's like out the door. I mean, data is killing by far everything. But just back then, to do direct mail and just get data, you had to get it from one source, and then take that data you got from one source and go get the postcard and letter from. You had to get the data from one source. You had to get a skip trace from one source. And then you had to get the postcard and letter sent out. You had to get that sent out from another source. So you had to like get all these different services and try to figure it out. And it was like tough back in those days. And it took longer. I mean, now you can do it within like, 5-10 minutes and send out a freaking text campaign using textmagic.com and cold call and RVM. You have RVM and you can send postcards right through this one umbrella software.
And then that's what we wanted to separate ourselves. We know, again, especially now in the era of technology, a lot of these new data providers are coming out because they see what we've done and they think, oh, it's easy. We could do what PropStream's doing. Then they get into it and then they realize, whoa, like PropStream has really created an infrastructure within their own business, and that infrastructure is unique. It's to be able to bridge all these data sources together that normally never bridge together. Like you said, you had to do it manually. I had to get a list of pre-foreclosures back in the day, and then I had to call an agent and say, hey, I got 200 pre-foreclosures here. Do you have time to go through them and show me what's on market, what failed, what sold? And the agent will either do it or not do it. And with PropStream, I mean, dude, you guys can literally do that in like a second. You can go to Birmingham, Alabama, go through all of the liens, and without even calling an agent, you have 4,000 results right now. You can say, okay, what are the off-market ones? Or what are the ones that recently sold? Or what about the ones that recently failed? So again, 47 results. This back in the day would have taken 24 to 72 hours or even a week, because I had to wait for the agent to get back to me and say, yeah, you know what? I went through your list. Here's what I was able to find that's on market or off market. You guys have that luxury at the comfort of your own home at a click of a button. So I can't emphasize that enough, but I do want to thank you guys. I mean, this is pretty much PropStream, how you effectively approach it to search a property and analyze it, assuming you have a lead already or you don't have a lead. So you need to go into a market and build a buyer's list or a distressed properties list, and we can cover you on both aspects. And that's, again, the luxury with us is not only can we help you find leads, but once these leads start calling you, you're going to need a platform to analyze it, right? And that's, again, all you have to do is search the address or click on it, and now you can start analyzing. And it doesn't end there. For those of you guys, this is a lifestyle. You're marketing and you're trying to save money every time you market. That's what the list automator was done. And again, for those of you guys that already have PropStream or are interested in PropStream, this list automator is a perfect opportunity for you to bring in any of your old data and get it updated. I'm telling you right now, you guys have old lists that you're sitting on that still have leads in them. You just don't know because it needs to be updated. So when you import it, we can update it for you guys, and then you can isolate the diamond in the rough. So take my word on it, guys. You still have some leads in your old list that are just waiting for you to identify them. And this list automator feature can do that for you guys. So again, Antonio, thank you for letting me shed this information to your audience. I'm a very confident believer that these new features and our product in general will only enhance their business even more.
Yeah, so guys, click the link below that you see below this video right now, and it's going to prompt you. I'm going to share my screen here so they can see. It's going to take you to AntonioPropsData.com, which is part of PropStream. We're going to for just taking going through this link here and taking your time to sign up, because I know you want to sign up. If you're investing here, watching this, you want to do deals and get fast results. This is it. AntonioPropsData.com, and we're going to offer you, just for going through this link here. All right, click the link below. We're going to offer you a 7-day free trial. Is right?
That's right. And a discounted price, guys. So you won't be paying full price. Make sure you sign up that link. You'll get the 7-day trial period. You'll get the discount as well. And then you guys have our support team. We have a Facebook community page, PropStream user community. You can get a hold of our customer support staff Monday through Friday. But watch this video again and again, because I showed you some really amazing gems, like the flippers list, the buyers list, stacking and suppressing. And then I showed you guys the list automator feature for those of you guys that want to update or essentially make sure that you're always sending the right amount of marketing material. You're not overspending on marketing.
And this is can you see the page right here, Bert?
Yeah, I love it.
When you click the link below, this will prompt you to this page. Just put in your information right here. Try it for free right now. And if you're a serious, investor like myself, you're not just going to you're going to go way past the 7 days. We're just so confident that, we want you to test this out for 7 days, and you're going to see within the first 30 minutes, you're like, wow, this is like a no-brainer here. So just click the link below, join this system now. We use this every day. I mean, this is our sauce to getting data to pulling cash buyers. When we have deals in the contract, if we're not already sold to a cash buyer we have in our pocket, we're skip tracing daily with this system. You got the RVMs, you got the postcards, if you want to send direct mail, all within the system. It's so much. I mean, I can just keep going on and on.
I'm barely scratching the surface too, man.
Yeah, scratching the surface, but for a wholesale deal business in a box, or in real estate investing business, you might just want to buy some properties off market to get rental properties and fix and flips outside of wholesale deals. This is it. I mean, this is it. This is it. That's another word I can say that this is it. Just click the link below. It'll prompt you to AntonioPropsData.com. Burton, I appreciate you, man.
Of course. Oh, and actually, before we let everyone go, I did want to share something very secretive. So I'll be very quick, but this is something that you guys have demanded for, but it's coming, guys.
The app?
Yes, sir. So you guys make sure look out for that. Summer 2020, PropStream app will be coming out. So make sure you guys sign up. Again, the trial period, we notify you guys on all the updated features. So if you guys are anticipating a very busy driving for dollar season this summer, we got you guys covered, and we got some really unique features that have never been seen before. So make sure you guys sign up to the trial link. It's the only way to get updated information on all the new features coming out. But yeah, I wanted to show you guys that to let you guys know we are paying attention to your needs and your demands. You guys have asked for it. And so summer 2020, PropStream app is coming out.
There you have it. You heard it here first. Click the link below and take you to AntonioPropstream.com, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, Bert.